Week 5 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few running backs I look to start this week. The first guy, Aaron Jones, of the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Jones had a solid ball game versus the New England Patriots in Week 4. 16 carries, 110 yards, 3 catches for 5 yards. So right now in Week 5, you've got a good matchup versus the New York Giants in London here. So this Giant team, we've seen them get carved up in the running game at time for time in the season. The Cowboys in Week 3 went over 150 yards rushing. And this Packer unit with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, I think they're going to be solid. I think the Packers, their offense is starting to get things going. They're finding different weapons with Romeo Doubs and Robert Tonyan coming off injury last season, playing good football as well. So right here this week, Aaron Jones, I think, has another big ball game versus the New York Giants. And I think this Packer offensive line could dominate the line of scrimmage. And he's a running back that could finish within the top 10 in fantasy points this week. The next guy is Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans. I think Henry, he's doubted the doubters wrong over the last 2 weeks. First 2 weeks of the season, he didn't do anything for fantasy football. But the last 2 weeks, he's had monster ball games and putting up RB1 elite numbers. Week 3 versus Vegas, 20 carries, 85 rush yards, a touchdown, 5 catches, 58 yards. And Week 4 at Indianapolis, another nice ball game, 22 carries, 114 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 33 yards. So Week 5, another good matchup at the Washington Commanders here for Derrick Henry. And right now, he's showing some prowess out of the backfield with 8 catches in the last 2 games. They're getting him open on screens. He's getting yards after catch. Here's Derrick Henry. And he's going to dominate this Commander defense here, I believe, is Derrick Henry. And right now, after the first 2 weeks, he got off to a slow start. He's back putting up big numbers, and he's definitely a running back you got to start each and every week. The next guy is Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the Kansas City Chiefs. Edwards-Helaire last week, I thought he would have a tough matchup versus Tampa Bay, but he definitely proved me wrong, and he put up his best game of the season in Week 4 at Tampa. 19 carries, 92 yards, a touchdown, a catch for 2 yards, and a touchdown. In Week 5 here, he's got a great matchup versus the Vegas Raiders that give up the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs on the season. So right now, it's been a great season here for Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the year, already with 5 total touchdowns. And he's a mainstay in this Kansas City offense. I know Pacheco got carries. We know Jared McKinnon's in there a decent amount of times. But right now, Edwards-Helaire's putting up numbers, at least 14 or more fantasy points in every game this season. And now with a plus matchup here in Week 5 versus the Raiders, he's a running back that you'll start as your number 2 running back on your roster, and a guy to have confidence in this week. I know it's not sustainable. I know he's not getting many touches, but right now, there's no way you could bench CEH this week. The next guy is Josh Jacobs. We're staying in the same game of the Vegas Raiders. So Josh Jacobs, what a ball game, and one of the best ball games of his career in Week 4 versus the Broncos, who were a solid defense going into the game, giving up the second least amount of fantasy points to running backs. But Josh Jacobs broke out, 28 carries, 144 rush yards, 2 touchdowns, and it was nice to see him 5 catches for 31 yards. So right here, Week 5 at Kansas City, Monday Night Football, they give up the 7th most fantasy points to running backs. And you got to fire up Jacobs. After a big ball game like that, the Raiders early in the season, they were looking to shy away from him and maybe go to the rookie Zamir White. But any questioning about that now, Josh Jacobs has put the rest, at least for the foreseeable future, after a big ball game and a big Vegas Raider victory after starting the season 0-3. So right now with a good matchup, even though they might get away from the run if the Kansas City Chiefs get up to a big start here. But Josh Jacobs, he's definitely a player right now. I would start this week at running back, and the 5th and final running back I look to start is Damien Harris of the New England Patriots. So right now, Harris, he's been up and down so far in the early going this season, but he's got 3 double-digit fantasy days, and right here, Week 5 versus the Detroit Lions, it's a good matchup on paper. They give up the most fantasy points to running backs on the season here is this Lion team. So him and Stevenson, pretty much a 50-50, 60-40 share over there in this Patriot backfield. And right now, the Patriots, they got no choice but to run the football a lot. Zappe is probably going to be the starter once again, unless Mac Jones heals or Brian Hoyer heals in time for this Week 5 game. And the Detroit Lions, they like playing a lot of shootouts so far in the early going. So right now, if the Lions do get off to a big start and the Patriots got to force to pass, obviously it's going to take away from Damien Harris, who's not the passing downs back over here in New England. But right now, if they could keep this game close and be good on the line of scrimmage, is this Patriot team. I think Harris could be a decent start as a flex or a number 2 running back. That's a few running backs I would start here for week 5 of the fantasy football season.